So, first we will discuss the history and the animals or the livestock involved in the animal science class. So, basically, these are the livestock and poultry, and that includes cattle, chickens, of course, horses, swine. We have also the goat, the sheep, the turkey, and horses. So it is not limited to that animals. So that includes the quail, the rabbits, pigeons, etc. As long as it is the primary source of food of man. So it's stated in the Bible in Genesis 1, 28 to 29. So be fertile and multiply. So fill the earth and subdue it. So it means the God stated in the Bible, of course, that you must multiply and reproduce for your species. So exactly what the man did. So the animals are under us. So we are the highest and the most intellectual species that we know of. So we are responsible for controlling the animals that we are eating, and we are raising, and we are producing for the benefit of all mankind. So also it is not limited to the animals. So also it said that every seed bearing plant, so that fruits, vegetables, and anything edible that can be eaten by man. So in early domestication stages, so it started 10,000 years ago, beginning with the dogs, of course. So the dogs, originally they are the scavenger. So after the humans have done eating, so the leftovers will be taken by the dogs. Before it was wolves, so that is the ancestry of the modern dogs today. So through time, these dogs became domesticated with humans and always followed the man that given him food as the leftover. And throughout the time, the years that had begun, so we became friends and partners together. So it involved in hunting, companionship, pets, so and so many functions. So the next statement we have here, the ruminants. So ruminants, that includes basically the cattle, the sheep, and the goats. But what are ruminants in terms of biological structure? So they are the animals with 4 stomachs. So pigs or swine is a monogastric, just like us humans. So we digest our food basically in one chamber, and it will undergo to the intestines. In ruminants, they have 4 chambers or stomachs. So we'll discuss that in later lectures in the higher chapters. So that is the distinct characteristics of ruminants. So this is not only the 3, but we have also the deer, the ox, and so many others. We'll discuss that as we go on. So next, the horses and cattle were the first domesticated primarily for transportation and draft work purposes, of course. So in order to help man propagate the land and culture the plants that he will need throughout his life. So early people found animals that form large herds or flocks and eat wide variety of feeds are easier to domesticate. So of course, horses and cattle are herd animals. So it means they are grouping each other and helping each other in order to survive in a harsh environment. So it is easier to cultivate a group of animals than a loner or a lone animals. So that is the distinct characteristics of the horses and cattle, but not limited to that, animals. So domestication, simply it is called taming. So they are kept in distinct purpose, and of course the humans control their breeding, as we know of, and we are practicing for a long time now. And the survival of the animals depends on the humans So in terms of food, shelter, and medication. So they develop traits. So and they lose traits from the wild, so they become tame. So domestication allowed humans to contain animals with the right temperament. So this the selective breeding entered. So as man, we are the highest ranking species, so we can select the most desirable and the most friendly to us in order for us to not get hurt in raising the animals. So that is selective breeding. So I have a list here. We have 7 animals, and what's your guess? The first animal that has been domesticated long time ago. Put them down in the comments. So first, yes, you are right, the sheep. So it was domesticated 11,000 to 15 years ago. So in Southeast Europe and Central or Southeast Asia. So that includes so many places, from Greece to Iran. So basically in Middle East. So as you know, in Middle East like Iran, Iraq, and other Arab countries, their main staple or meat source is sheep. So mostly those countries are Muslim countries, and they are not fond of eating pork or swine. So that is why the sheep was the first one that they domesticated in their area. So it is considered as a clean animal. So next, also for their wool. So basically wool is their hair or fur. So they use this as clothing and protection for the harsh weather. So because of selective breeding, of course, by selecting the most desirable wool and the highest yielding meat animal of sheep, so they selected the most adaptable and most productive breed that they want to. Next, we have the cattle. So that was 10,000 to 15,000 years ago. So it was domesticated in Europe and Asia or Southwest Asia. So this includes Russia up to Iraq. So in Iran and Iraq, they also cultivated cattle. So by means of enclosure. So they just raise the cattle inside farms in a close range and feeding them with the food they need, just like hay and rice tops or any plant products available within their area. So the most important role of cattle in these areas are the meat and the milk, of course. So it helped also in their labor because there were no machineries way back then, so they used cattle as draft animal for draft purposes. So next we have the pigs or the swine. That was 5,000 to 9,000 years ago. So in place what we call now as Iraq, that is the Mesopotamia. So they say this is the place where civilization begins and the first area to be cultivated and agriculture emerges. So they were utilized in farming communities, so but not in nomadic groups because they are difficult to move for long distances. As you know, pigs or swine are gets easily tired if they run away in places to places, because these animals can easily get killed by heat. So they got heat stroke and other severe consequences if you travel these animals in long distances in a confinement. So they are not designed for transport in long distances. So next we have the horses. So this man, so he has his statue. So this is Genghis Khan. So basically this man conquered the world by using horses. So it was in Mongolia and Siberia. That is a very cold country. So they were used for meat and milk, but also for pack and draft animals for carrying their weapons and other stuff in conquering other countries. So next we have the goat, the chicken, the turkeys. So they were earlier than those animals mentioned earlier. So the goat, that was 6,000 to 7,000. Chickens, that was 3,000 to 4,000 years ago approximately in Asia or Southeast Asia. So the turkey is in North America, and that was their main source of meat way back that time. So I have here a timeline, so for you to be familiar easily on the animals. So sheep, cattle, goat, pigs, horses, chickens, and we have the present. That is the 20th century or the 19th century. So we'll define what is animal science. So basically, it is a study of farm animals, so under human control, a science and business, so of producing domestic livestock species, so including beef cattle, dairy cattle, horses, poultry, sheep, and swine, but not limited to that animals. So we have a lot of livestock that are under our control. So don't be confused with animal science and animal husbandry. So husbandry is the art of working with farm animals. So you are manning and you are controlling it physically. So that is, you are a farm man or a farmer, of course, or you are a husbandry. So that is animal husbandry. So animal science and biology came hand to hand or hand in hand, because biology is the study of life, so that provide to seek an understanding of the natural world. Of course, that is the main study, and animal science is one branch of that subject, that is the biology. So animal science come in different areas, so that includes genetics, embryology, zoology, so on and so forth. So it is not just one specific area, but it is a very diverse area that has packed so many principles and information and ideas compact into one subject, that is animal science. So next we have the contributions of the animals to the society, of course, and that is the food. So mutton and chivon. So mutton is the meat of sheep and chivon is the meat of goat. So beef also is a term for the meat of cattle or cow, and there are so many terms that we'll discuss later as we go on in our class. So second, we have the clothing. As I've said earlier, the wool, the hair, and the hides or the leather is used in man long time ago. So in cold countries like Siberia and Ukraine, they are using the hide or the leather of animals, just like the deer, and they are using it as a tent. So the wool is as clothing, of course, jackets and hair dresses. Next, we have the shelter. So as I've said earlier a while ago, so they are using tent made of hides. Tools, so bones as sharpened material to kill another animal. Utensils, the catgut or the intestines as storage. Personal items, just like jewelry and perfume. So they cut up the bones and wear it in their body. So next we have power. So this is a history of draft work. So mainly by packing and transporting humans. So in time of Genghis Khan and the Romans, they are utilizing the draft power of horses in order to conquer the places that they want to go. So horses is a very powerful animal. So yes, the horsepower come from the horses. That is the unit of power in engines or machines right now. So they came from horses. So for a side note. So today in developing countries, animals provide as much as 99% of the power used in agriculture. So while 20% of the world's populations depend on animals for moving goods. So India considered cattle as an holy or a holy animal. So it means they are killed in a specific purpose. You cannot just kill the cattle so easily. So there are rules applied in that country as they consider cattle as gods or the animals for the gods. So just like the Hindus. So mostly Hindus are in India's. So they are not slaughtered for meat. They are considered as sacred. So they are used mainly for their power for field work in there. So next we have the war. So yes, I've said earlier the Romans and other races uses animals. Religion, they worship animals just like in India. So recreation, so we have the horseback riding, so on and so forth. We have health, last. So they are used for research. So miniature pigs, rats, so many others are the first living species that are studied and tested for the medicines for human purposes. So Laika the dog is the first canine to be in space. So it is an experimental state. So they tried by NASA sent living animals in space before putting humans in it. So they are the experimental creatures for us to conquer the impossible. So that's it. That is the end of this video tutorial or lecture, and I hope you have taken something important based on what we discussed. So we will see on the next one, and thank you for listening and watching.